Hi, welcome back to Girls on the Grid. I'm Nienke. Today I'm joined by Julia and Henrike. Kelly's not here due to personal reasons, but she'll be back soon. And this week we're going to be talking about grid penalties and penalty points. Penalty points are handed to drivers if they do something the FIA considers dangerous. This could be a collision, ignoring flags, or even driving too fast under the safety car. When a driver receives a penalty point, they remain on their license for a year before they get expired. However, you get in big trouble if you reach 12 penalty points. 12 penalty points means a race ban. You get banned from one race, the race after you reach 12 points. So let's say next weekend a driver would reach 12 points, they would be off for the race after that weekend. No one has gotten themselves to that point since the system was invented in 2014. But some drivers have been close, Daniel Kvyat being one of them, who was at risk of being awarded a race ban with 10 penalty points in 2017. Drivers could get penalties for the following offenses: starting the race prematurely, speeding in the pit lane, causing an accident, walking unfairly, ignoring flags of any color. So that's how drivers usually get their penalties.
Yeah. There are 4 types of penalties drivers can receive for for violating the on-track rules. The first time being a time penalty. This can be a 5 or 10-second time penalty that can serve during the next pit stop. After the driver stops in their pit box, the mechanics must wait 5 or 10 seconds before touching the car to do anything. The time penalty will be added to their time at the end of the race if the driver does not need to pit anymore. The second penalty can be a drive-through penalty. This requires the driver to enter the pit lane, drive through it while obeying the speed limit, and exit without stopping. So they can't do a pit stop in that time period. The third penalty is the 10-second stop and go penalty. This requires the driver to enter the pit lane, stop at his pit box for 10 seconds and exit again. Team mechanics are forbidden to touch the offending car at any time while the driver is serving the penalty. It is given for serious offense such as endangering other drivers, the harshest penalty aside from disqualification. For the drive-through and stop and go penalties, a driver has 2 laps from the time his team hears he has a penalty to enter the pits. The driver will be given a black flag if he does not pit within the 2 laps. The exception to the rule is if the safety car is deployed before the penalty is served, in which case the driver is not allowed to serve the penalty until after the safety car comes back in. If the penalty will be given the last 5 laps of the race, the driver does not need to pit at all, but will have 20 seconds added to their total race time in case of a drive-through penalty and 30 seconds in case of a stop-and-go penalty. The fourth penalty is a black flag. These are the most severe penalties given, which is imposed for ignoring penalties or for technical irregularities of any sort. The driver will be disqualified from the race and the results will not count towards the championship. If the black flag is not considered sufficient for the offense, the driver may be banned for several races at the event. There are a few other penalties that can be given as well, such as a grid penalty. This may be given for the next race. For example, a 5-place grid penalty means if the driver is qualified first, they would start from the 6th position. The most extreme punishment of all, used for seriously endangering the life of any other driver, is to be excluded from the Drivers' World Championship that year. Such cases may be taken to judicial court. You can also get a disqualification. This means a driver gets disqualified for ignoring the red light at the pit lane or unsportsmanlike behavior. The last penalty can be a race ban. After 3 warnings from the stewards, a driver gets banned for 1 race.
So now that you know all the information about penalties, how they work, what penalties there are, we're going to give you a few examples on penalties. Later we'll go on with the penalties for the current grid, but we'll start with 2 main. The first penalty we'll be talking about was given to Michael Schumacher after the European Grand Prix at Jerez in 1997. That was the last race of the season, and Schumacher led Jacques Villeneuve by 1 point in the Drivers' Championship. As Villeneuve attempted to pass Schumacher, Schumacher turned in, and the right front wheel of Schumacher's Ferrari hit the left side pop of Villeneuve's car. Schumacher retired from the race as a result, but Villeneuve finished in third place, taking 4 points and so becoming the world champion. The race stewards did not initially award a penalty, but 2 weeks after the race, Schumacher was disqualified from the entire 1997 Drivers' Championship after an FIA disciplinary hearing. Schumacher accepted the decision and admitted having made a mistake. Schumacher's actions were widely commended in British, German, and Italian newspapers. This made Schumacher the only driver in the history of the sport to be disqualified from a Drivers' World Championship. Next one is called Crashgate. I believe this rings some bells for some people because this is like the earliest memory I got of Formula One, which is kind of sad. But for everyone who's got no clue what I'm talking about, Crashgate was with Renault in 2008. At the Singapore Grand Prix, Nelson Piquet Jr. crashed his Renault against the wall so that his teammate Fernando Alonso could use the safety car phase to win for the first time that season in Renault. On September 21st in 2009, Renault was suspended from the World Championship for 2 years, and ex-team boss Flavio Briatore, who had previously resigned, was banned from the FIA for life. In addition, Briatore's ban was lifted by a French court in January 2010.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the penalties that were given this season so far. So in Bahrain, Sebastian Vettel got handed 5 penalty points for his tricky debut in Aston Martin. His day began with a 5-grip penalty for failing to obey double yellow flags during Saturday's qualifying, and it continued with a collision with Esteban Ocon under braking at turn 1, which resulted in 5 penalty points. Sergio Perez was handed a 10-second time penalty in the early stages of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix for overtaking cars while behind the safety car. Alfa Romeo have lost their appeal over the 30-second time penalty that was handed to Kimi after the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, which made Raikkonen drop from P9 to P15, so out of the points. The next one was at the Spanish Grand Prix, where Pierre Gasly was given a 5-second time penalty for being out of position at the start of the race. So the next one was in Baku, where Leno Norris got a 3-place grip penalty for not going into the pit lane under the red flag. This also resulted in 3 penalty points given to him to add on to his license. In Baku, Nicolas Latifi got 30 seconds added to his race time due to miscommunication with the Williams pit wall. Latifi failed to follow the field and drive through the pits during the caution period, where Max had his heavy crash during the race at the closing stage of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And the last and most recent penalty given was to Valtteri Bottas for spinning in the pit lane during free practice. That cost him a few points on his license and a 3-place grip penalty. And one for Yuki Tsunoda. He had set a 10 top qualifying position in Austria, but he was pushed backwards with 3 places as a 3-place grip penalty as well, because he was in the way of Bottas during qualifying. So yeah, those were the incidents and the penalty points given in 2021 so far.
So now we're going to talk a bit about how many points every driver has on their license. To begin with Max Verstappen, he hasn't got any penalty points on his license as of this year.
I'm surprised.
Same. I just wanted to say that when you look at the beginning of his career,
yeah,
and see where he is now, just shows that he's matured so much and that he's an amazing driver.
Yes.
Yeah. Second Red Bull driver, Sergio Perez. He has a total of 4 penalty points on his license. The first one is because of the Spanish Grand Prix in 2020. That point expires in August 2021, and it's because of ignoring blue flags during the race. His second point is because of the Tuscan Grand Prix in 2020, where he caused a collision with Raikkonen in free practice 2, and that will expire in September 2021. And then he got 2 penalty points during the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in 2021 because of overtaking 2 cars during a safety car period. They will expire in April 2022. Then we have Lewis Hamilton. He has a total of 6 penalty points on his license. He got 2 points during the Austrian Grand Prix 2020, where he failed to slow for a single waved yellow flag during qualifying. They will expire in July 2021. Then he got 2 points during the Austrian Grand Prix 2020 for a collision with Albon during the race, and they will expire in July 2021 as well. And then during the Italian Grand Prix 2020, he got 2 points for entering the pit lane when it was closed during the race. They will expire in September 2021. And then next, Mercedes driver Valtteri Bottas. He only has 2 penalty points on his license. Both he got during the Styrian Grand Prix in 2021 for dangerous driving the pit lane, and they will expire next year in June.
Moving on to McLaren, we're starting with Leno Norris, who's currently got 8 points on his license, which makes him the driver with the most penalty points in the whole grid. The first 2 points currently on his license he got last year at the Styrian Grand Prix. The reason for that was overtaking Gasly at turn 5 under yellow flags and FP1. Those will expire 10th of July this year. The next 3 points he got at the Turkish Grand Prix in 2020. The reason for that was the failure to respect yellow flags at turn 8 during qualifying. Those will expire in November this year. The most recent points on his license are 3 points that were handed to him at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix this year, as said before. Those points were given to him for not entering the pit lane, but staying on track whilst the red flags were out during qualifying. So with still a lot of races to go this year, do we think Leno Norris could be the first driver to actually get a race ban because of his penalty points?
Depends on how he does next week, I think, because if he doesn't get any penalty points next week, then I think he'll be good, because the week after 3 are good. 2 are going to be taken off, so he'll be left with 6 till November.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if he'll get to 12.
I hope not.
I think he's gonna come close.
Yes,
but maybe he won't get there. Maybe he'll get like 10 or 11, but
we'll see.
You know,
We'll see.
You get 6 points faster than you think.
Yes,
exactly.
Sure. He only needs like 6 points by November to get the race ban.
Yes,
exactly. And with the other 3 points expiring at the beginning of June in 2022, which would be also like a couple of races in the next season, things could get really interesting here.
Yeah,
for sure.
So going on to the second driver of McLaren, which is Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel currently only got 1 penalty point on his license that was given to him during the Russian Grand Prix last year. The reason for that was the failure to follow race director's instruction, left the track at turn 2 during the race. That point will expire the 27th of September this year. Going on to Ferrari, we're going to start with Charles Leclerc, who's currently got 3 penalty points on his license. The first one was given to him at the Styrian Grand Prix in 2020 for impeding Kvyat during qualifying. That one will expire 11th of July this year. The other 2 were given to him at the Sakir Grand Prix last year. The reason for that was a collision with Perez, causing Verstappen to take avoiding actions and hitting a barrier during the race. Those points will expire the 6th of December in 2021. Carlos Sainz currently only got 1 point on his license. That 1 point will expire 14th of November this year, and the reason for that was impeding Perez during qualifying at the Turkish Grand Prix in 2020.
Moving on with Alpine, starting with Fernando Alonso, he has got 0 points on his license, one of the only 3 drivers currently on the grid with no points on their license. Next up is Esteban Ocon. He only has 1 penalty point on his license, and that was given to him during the 17th anniversary Grand Prix 2020. The reason being he impeded George Russell during qualifying. The point will expire August 8th, 2021. Moving on to Aston Martin, starting with Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian currently has 5 penalty points on his license. The first 3 were handed to him this year in the Bahrain Grand Prix. The reason being he failed to respect the double yellow flags in turn 1 during qualifying. The points will expire March 28th of 2020. The other 2...
2022. You said 2020.
What's it? 2022.
These points will expire March 28th, 2022. The other 2 points were also given to him in the Bahrain Grand Prix. The reason being the collision with Ocon in turn 1. These will also expire March 28th of 2022. Then the next driver is Lance Stroll. He currently has 4 penalty points on his license. The first 2 points were given to him during the Portuguese Grand Prix of 2020. The reason being the collision with Norris during the race, and these will expire October 25th, 2021. The next point was also during the Portuguese Grand Prix 2020. The reason being leaving the track without adjustable reason multiple times during the race, and this will also expire October 25th, 2021. And his last penalty point was given to him during the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix 2021. The reason being leaving the track and gaining an advantage for passing Gasly, and this will expire April 18th, 2022.
Okay. So moving along, we got Alfa Romeo. The first driver being Kimi Räikkönen. He has 4 penalty points on his license. The first point he got during the Hungarian Grand Prix of 2020, where his car was out of position at the start of the race. This point will expire the 19th of July 2021. The next point he got during the Tuscan Grand Prix 2020, where he failed to enter the pit lane to the right of the white line during the race. This point will expire the 13th of September 2021. His last 2 points he got during the Eiffel Grand Prix 2020. There he caused a collision with Russell at turn 1 during the race. These 2 points will expire the 11th October 2021. The next driver is Antonio Giovinazzi. He got 3 penalty points on his license. The first point he got during the British Grand Prix of 2020. There he failed to slow under the safety car during the race. This point will expire the 2nd of August 2021. The last 2 points he got during the Italian Grand Prix 2020. There he entered the pit lane when closed during the race. These 2 points will expire the 6th of September 2021. The next team being Alfa Tauri with Pierre Gasly. He only has 1 penalty point on his license. This one he got during the Spanish Grand Prix 2021 for being out of position at the start of the race. This point will also expire the 9th of May 2022. The next driver at Alfa Tauri being Yuki Tsunoda. He got 2 penalty points on his license. The first one he got during the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix 2021 for leaving the track without justifiable reason multiple times. This point will expire the 18th of April 2022. The next point he got during the Styrian Grand Prix 2021 for impeding Bottas during qualifying. This point will also expire the 26th of June 2022.
Now moving on to the last two teams, starting with Haas. Two rookies in the team. First one being Mick Schumacher. He doesn't have any penalty points on his license. The other driver is Nikita Mazepin. He currently got 2 points on his license. The first one he got during the Portuguese Grand Prix this year, obviously. The reason for that was ignoring blue flags during a race. That one will expire the 2nd of May next year. And the other one he got at the Spanish Grand Prix for impeding Norris during qualifying. That one will expire May 9th, 2022. Now going over to our last team, being Williams, we're starting with George Russell. George currently got 6 penalty points on his license. The first 3 penalty points were given to him at the British Grand Prix of 2020. The reason for that was the failure to respect double yellow flags at turn 7 during qualifying. Those 3 points will expire August 1st this year. And the other 3 penalty points George got during the other 3 penalty points George got during qualifying at the Turkish Grand Prix last year. The reason for that was also ignoring double yellow flags at turn 3. Those 3 points will expire the 14th of November this year. Now on to our last driver. That is Nicholas Latifi. He currently got 3 penalty points on his license. Those 3 points were given to him this year at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The reason for that was not entering the pit lane as instructed during the safety car period in the race. Those points will expire the 6th of June in 2022. Now that we've talked you through how many points each driver got and for what reason, here's an overview of all the drivers and their penalty points. So that's it for this week's episode. We hope you liked this week's episode. Let us know in the comment section below what you think of all the penalties. If anything else comes to your mind, please share it with us. Also, make sure to check all of our socials. They're also linked below. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and we'll see you next time.